are listening to the Starter Girls podcast with Jennifer Loading. Whether you are starting a project, starting a business, starting a brand, or starting a movement, we are here to talk about it, and we are going to get this thing started. Today is a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up. Be amazing. Be you. Do you. All right, my friends, I've got an awesome guest coming on the show today. I want to welcome Dr. Casey Sanders to the Starter Girls podcast. Welcome, Casey.
Jennifer, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell our listeners a little bit about you, and then we are going to get this thing rolling. All right. So Dr. Casey Sanders is a native Texan, father, musician, wellness advocate, upper cervical chiropractor, and an avid consumer of research and literature. On any given day, Dr. Casey may be found engaging heavily with his community in Keller, Texas. He is the chairman of the board as well as an ambassador for the Greater Keller Chamber of Commerce, a published writer, and active in the extreme sports community. It was two life-altering occurrences that have led Dr. Casey to guide others to a life filled with happiness, wellness, and positive life experiences. The first was a debilitating back injury in 2008 that left Dr. Casey in a deep hole of depression, envy, and hopelessness that, with the help of his father and chiropractic care, he was able to fully recover from with a new outlook on life. The second happened in 2013 when his wife, Carrie, was pregnant with their second child and experienced a heart condition that doctors were unable to find the source of. It was during this time that Dr. Casey had been studying the relationship between the brainstem to the top two bones in the neck and how the body heals. He applied the principles of chiropractic. I'm losing my train of thought here. He applied the principles of chiropractic with the systems of upper cervical care to assist his wife in healing from her heart condition. From there, he set his sights on spreading this message to every person ready to experience a new life. His vision was set. Dr. Casey stands for a world in which an optimal human experience is the gateway to true happiness. I like that very last little sum up right there. That is just awesome.
Hey, it says right there, I'm a published writer. I know what I'm doing.
Right. You got so many great things going here. I love it. We're gonna have, I'm sure, quite a bit to talk about here because my whole thing is about wellness, and it just, I'm a big believer in wellness is not just about what you eat every day. There's so many pieces to wellness. But the other thing I think is so incredibly neat about what you have, and I don't know if I say neat when it happened, but going forward, what it's allowed you to do is these life experiences that you've had, because they just really, they impact who you are. And I think that they don't define you, but they help create where you're going. And I love that. So we're going to dive in here and get going on a lot of stuff. So I want to talk about this. So how long have you been doing this chiropractic care?
Oh, man. So I'm what we call a second generation chiropractor. My father got into it back in the 80s and built an insanely successful practice during that time. And I grew up working in his office, at first as a CA chiropractic assistant. And then as I went through, able to do a little bit more. And then it was around 2013 or so that things really split off, and I started learning more about upper cervical chiropractic and how that can benefit people. And that's where the whole story of my wife gets in there. So I guess short answer is I've been doing it my entire life.
I love that. Well, and it's kind of interesting because what were you doing before this? Were you in a totally different career? Even though you were doing this, but
so you see in there where I put that I'm a musician.
Yes.
In between my undergraduate studies and getting my doctorate work completed, I traveled around most of the southern U.S. playing music.
Okay, awesome. That's what I was kind of trying to figure out, because you said you've been doing this your whole life, but I was wondering, were you doing something before you kind of morphed into this and you had these life happenings? Because it's so interesting when I talk to people about, their passion, and obviously this is a passion for you. You wanting to help people is something that you truly feel passionate about doing. And, they always say, when you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? If you find that sweet, happy spot and stuff. And so, but it's interesting to me when I'm talking to people because, some people know right away, it's they like I've had a few people on here, like I feel like from birth, they walk out and they're like, this is what I'm going to do. I knew I was going to be a musician, or I knew I was going to do this. The rest of us kind of find our way. Like we sort of evolve into that. Like we've had exposure, but we kind of, morph into that. Life happens and just kind of puts us in that place. So that's why I was asking that question. If you had been doing something else.
I love the question. I completely agree with you. I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, whenever I was younger, I was going to be a rock star. I was going to have, platinum selling albums and travel the world and experience that. But we end up finding out that our true passion is just this accumulation of all of our experiences, and our stream of consciousness just drives us through there. And our subconscious kind of puts us in this place. And we start seeing opportunities, and then those opportunities aren't coming because we're putting ourselves there. Those opportunities are coming because the subconscious mind is just recognize them without us even knowing about it in the first place. And so once it makes that jump over from the subconscious into our actual conscious mind, now we start to see it. And it's like this cool little path that we follow. It's like we have where we're meant to be, and then we have where we think we are, just kind of going along in this little serpentine pattern of awesomeness. And it's put me where I am today.
Yeah, I love that. Well, it's interesting. I was watching a video today because one of the things I do, and I coach on this all the time, is I talk about, reading and pouring positive, material into your space every day, because it's so important with us. And one of the videos I was watching this morning, they were talking about how so often, we go through life and we just kind of do what we think we're supposed to do. When you are able to take your gifts and put that to use, that's when you find your happy factor. It's like when you find it's like you're given gifts that you're really good at, and you put those to work, and then that's when you can have like the greatest impact with people and make change. And so I love that. And I always feel like when you're talking to people that are in that space, you can hear that come across in their voice. He also talked about in that video, you'll probably like this, he talked about, the difference between, there's not really high energy and low energy people. People always say I'm high energy. It's because I'm passionate. I get excited because I get passionate about things. I will tell you the same time, when I don't like something, I'm like really low energy, and so he was talking about that, how when you find something that you really love, like you do it, you talk about it, you sleep it, you live it, and you're excited about it.
Yeah, you annoy people with it. I mean, yes. I know that's me.
Yeah, and it's okay because I feel like the right people find you. Right? Absolutely.
You find the right people find you. You work your way into this life, and it's just so interesting to see. It's like this just it's I know it's out there, it's a bit ethereal to say, but it's like it's just as if there's like this unseen stream of energy flowing out there, and we all just pull towards each other. And it may be locally, it may be worldly, it may be whatever you want to call it, but it's just we all tend to find each other, and we all just happen to be in the same place or the right place at the right time. And you notice it more and more as you become more passionate about what it is that you're doing, is that you just one day look around and you say, how did I end up here? And how did I end up getting surrounded by the right people? How did I get surrounded by these high quality individuals that I love what I do, they love what I do, and I love what they do, and we can all just kind of mesh together. And it's really, really cool to see.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about your chiropractic care a little bit here.
Let's do it.
So tell me, so what I want to know, because obviously you've been doing this for a little bit now, and like your whole life, kind of, sort of, right? So tell us, I guess, a little bit about what makes you unique, and maybe what you love about this profession. Like, what is this that drives you?
Yeah, certainly. That's an awesome, excellent question. I appreciate you for asking it. So, it's interesting because I had this exact conversation earlier in my clinic. I had somebody come in and sit down. She sits down in front of me, and she kind of looks at me. She goes, I don't know what I'm really doing here. She goes, I'm here because I wanted to schedule a consult, but after reading what you've posted and after reading some of your other things, I've drawn here, and I want to know what it is that you do that's so different from the chiropractor down the street that's going to, pop my neck and back and make me feel good for a little bit? What is it that you do that's different? And so what really sets us apart, one is going to be our company, and that's the Specific Chiropractic Center. Anybody that has, I mean, you know, Dr. Brandon Brown over there in Richardson, a great guy. He's one of the docs of the Specific as well. So the first thing is our company. The fact that we are a team of dedicated chiropractors, upper cervical chiropractors, that our mission in life is to help people find happiness, to help people get well, to really put the health and care back in healthcare. That's our mission. And so again, number one is the company. Number two is our service. The service that we provide is different from anything that you're going to find at almost any chiropractic office that you step inside. We're providing not only nervous system assessment via something called infrared thermography. It's this cool little scanner, goes up the back, goes on your neck. It allows us to actually take a look at how your nervous system is reacting to the outside world. But we also take a very unique set of x-rays in our offices that you don't typically see in a chiropractic office. Those allow us to see the way the bones are moving, but in actuality, it allows us to see in real time which way your bones are stuck. So there's no guesswork involved anymore. It's not, let me, use my fingers on you and find out where I think you need to be adjusted. It's, this is where it needs to be. So we have that service there as well. So those are two things. And the third thing, it's our communities. Like we're not in this game that of life and of business to make a quick buck. We're not in this to bill insurance. We're not in this to create anything other than a good, solid community of happy, healthy, well people that are able to experience life on their own terms.
I love that. Well, and it's interesting because I believe in chiropractors 100%. Like I am all for, if we can find a holistic way to heal people, I'm all about that, And when I was going through, and Dr. Brandon Brown knows this, I have trigeminal neuralgia. I was diagnosed with that 8 years ago, and I was actually able to, through dietary changes, I was able to put that into remission and get off all my medication. So I have been off it. But every time I hear that, I say that to somebody, chiropractors know that condition is extremely painful. It is, and I've had migraines. So I always tell people, that is worse than migraines by far.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. That's why they call it suicide disease. It's
exactly.
nothing to joke around. I mean, it's nothing to play around with.
No.
It's heavy.
No, but I will tell you, that's when I really started going to the chiropractor, was when I was in the heat of that condition. And so I did, I went to an acupuncturist, I had a chiropractor. I really, and I will tell you that, I suffered with that condition for 4 years. It completely destroyed my life financially, personally. It turned my whole world upside down. I went from not really having much, being active. I've always been an exerciser. So I went from being completely active to just, having to step down from my position in my company and really just reassess. But, the good out of that was that I learned a lot going through that, because I started working with a lot of holistic type practitioners. I really removed myself from the medical system and started looking at alternatives, because there's not really a solid way to treat that. I mean, there's just, other than being on medication, I had an atypical case, so it wasn't a nerve was compressed. They couldn't find anything. And so for me, it was really a lot of trial and error. So that's when I really, I guess, made my was my introduction into chiropractic care. So I absolutely believe in it. And it helped me get through a lot of really tough moments. I mean, just, getting through that. So I'm all for it. And I love what you're doing in that respect. So
good. I'm glad you found something that worked for you, that you were able to find relief and go into remission. I'm happy to hear that. Not so many people are as lucky, are as fortunate and that you are. And I'm sure that it stems probably from, even just talking to you for a little bit, has to stem from tenacity and perseverance.
Oh yeah. And I talk about that in my book. And my book's about what I learned going through that journey. But that's what I talk about, is making decisions and having self-belief, and really just, I have people reach out to me. In fact, I had someone email me the other day that had heard me on a podcast, and she was asking me, she's like, I've been in, kind of a healthy person for a really long time, but I'm just wondering, was there anything you did? And I'm like, oh my goodness, there were so many things. But I think, it really comes down to, you have to want, in some ways, to get better. You have to really fight for yourself and want
Correct.
to get better.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And
That is one of the largest things. The power of the mind is immeasurable. And if you can start twisting yourself and changing your mindset, which is way harder than it sounds to do, if you can start altering your mindset, then the capability of you and your ability to do anything that you need to or want to it's going to happen.
absolutely. So, do you get a lot of, like, I'm sure you guys get a lot of migraine patients, doing what you do. Do you find that you have some people roll in there that have TN?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I've had a few cases of trigeminal neuralgia in the past few years that have been at my current location. And it's in one of my first visits, in my at least consult visits, I love to sit down with people and I want to just listen.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't find in a lot of doctors' offices, but the first thing that I like to do with people is sit down and just let them speak. I want to hear firsthand what they're going through. And whenever it comes to things like trigeminal neuralgia, those are some of the most intense stories of pain that I have ever heard. It can be intense, and you take a burden on. Personally, I take a burden on because I'm a huge empath. So anytime that somebody starts telling me these stories, I can feel it, what they're going through, and while I could never understand what they're going through, and I could never 100% know what they're going through, I feel like it gives a better idea. So to have people with something like TN come through is they're very intense appointments. I can tell you that much.
Sure. Well, and I'm an empath as well, so I can definitely understand that. Yes, and I agree with you. There are some crazy stories. I could probably tell you a lot too. I mean, I there were times I banged my head in the wall. It is a very serious disease, and so I it's interesting because when I was diagnosed 8 years ago, they didn't really have groups on Facebook like they have now. So I didn't really know anybody that had this condition. And it's interesting to me now that I'm finding out, like, there are so many people that have it. And mine came after a dental appointment. Like, I went in and had a minor procedure done, and then it triggered this. And it's interesting to me even now, like, I'm finding that story is common with a lot of people too, that go into the dentist and come out, and then all of a sudden they have this rare nerve condition, So crazy stuff.
That's why right doc fits you is finding that right doc is imperative. A lot of times people will say, why is it that I can't just go to a doc down the street that charges me a lot less than what you're going to charge in your office, or why can't I go do this and do that? And that's a prime example because the premium that people pay is not necessarily for the tools or the tech that's in there. It's for the knowledge of the person, of the clinician that's working on you. It's for the expertise that you're really, really going for. And so I have seen a lot of those. It's interesting that you mentioned like the Facebook groups and the fact that they're around and the effects of social media, because that's really, for me, in my experience, a double-edged sword. You can find such good support in some of those groups, but you can also find a ton of negativity in a lot of those groups of people that have allowed their diagnosis to become them. It's no longer I have this or anything. It's my trigeminal neuralgia.
Right.
It's like they internalize it, and it just destroys them from the inside out on a mental level, as opposed to a level of disease, and it can be hugely detrimental. So I again, it just brings it back to the fact that I'm glad that you were able to get through your issues and get back into remission.
100% on the labels too. I talk about that a lot. And I think I actually talked about that in my book. No, people do. They have conditions and they own them. The condition becomes who they are, their existence, instead of, saying, this is not going to define me. This is not who I am. And in fact, I was talking to someone today and she asked me what was my motivation. And I said, for me personally, one, I didn't like being in pain, obviously, right? But I didn't want to be taking medication for the rest of my life. I didn't want to be, on that. And I knew that was going to be my life. That's how that was going to be if I did not make that change. So I agree with you 100% on those groups, definitely. And, I've, interestingly enough, going through there, I found people that, are open to receiving, and those people reach out and they want, and you can have that conversation. And yes, you do have to, like, those other ones that own it, like, distance. I mean, let that go. So I agree with you 100% on that. I think we're in agreement on all that kind of stuff. So that's awesome.
I think so.
Who would you say and I know you talked about your dad, but who would you say has been your greatest influencers?
Oh man, I love that question. I've had a ton of mentors, coaches, authors, podcasters over the time that have just drawn a huge influence onto me. And you know what? The way that I love to answer that, as opposed to saying in the past it's been X, Y, or Z, mine is like, who are mine right now? Who is it I'm following right now that just
Awesome.
gets me up in the morning with a fire lit? And the number one for me is going to be a split between my two business coaches, Dr. Sean Dill and Dr. Lacey Book. Not only because, I can text them and say what I'm going through, and they provide me with some sound advice that helps drive my decision making throughout the day, in terms of not only my business, but they're also chiropractors as well. So I can go to them if I'm having any sort of issues with any patients that I'm going, whoa, okay, these guys have been doing this for 20, 30 years longer than I have. Let's see what their opinion is on it, so I can create this cool clinical decision-making process. But they also, again, with the business side of things, these are people that have built companies that are worth millions, and they know what they're doing very well. So those are my top split two right there, my top one. Number two right now, and I've people may have heard of this person, may have not. He's a comedian, he's a podcaster, and he actually has a show right now on Netflix that's known as Midnight Gospel. His name is Duncan Trussell. He's been a guest of shows like on Joe Rogan's podcast and on a number of others. But this guy is practicing Buddhist and all around just really, really deep thinker. Huge into philosophy, huge into things like multiverse theory and how different aspects of our consciousness affect us. So I've been very, very deep into a lot of his material lately, and it's driven some of my relationships into better places than they were before. In all honesty, it's taken some of my perspectives and allowed me to kind of step back, really take a good view at them, and figure out what's most important in my life. So Duncan Truss is going to come in at number two for me on that one. And then number three, it'll be the last one, it being that I already told you before, I love writing, I love creating, I love idealism. And so the author, Neil Gaiman, is going to be my top top three in terms of that, just because his effect that he's had not only on the literary world in terms of his fantasy and things of that nature, but the impact he has on millions of people worldwide, and even further, his wife Amanda Palmer, the impact that she's had on things like the Me Too movement, and on things. Watching her, if you ever get a chance to check her out, you can go watch an old TED talk that she did. Just go into TED and search Amanda Palmer, and it's the power of the ask is really what it's about learning how to step out of your comfort zone and just asking people to maybe do something for you, or to help out in some way, and what kind of doors that can open. So those are probably, as of right this second, those are my current top three.
I love it. I love it. Hey, and listen, I have to say, what I really like about you is that you're bringing the positivity into what you're doing, because I think that is so immensely important. Because when you're dealing with patients every day, I mean, and I'm going to say this because I've had incredible mentors. I was in a company where I had been with them for 20 years, had incredible mentors. I don't even know what it's like not to have incredible mentors, because I just have had them. And so it's interesting to me, because so many people work jobs where they never have the opportunity to be in that space with people that can influence and empower them and really get them to think outside of the box and grow. And so one of the things I really love about what you're doing is that you're bringing a lot of the stuff you're saying resonates with me, because it's things I talk about with my clients all the time when I'm coaching them. And, I talk about labels and thinking outside the box, and how do we create flow in our life and all of these things to find our happy spot. Well, and even like today, I was talking to someone about health and well-being. And so, there's so much to this, but I love that you're bringing that in there, because that plays, like you said earlier in the show, the mindset plays so much into healing somebody. And if you think you're going to get better, you can work on getting better. But if you don't see light, it's hard to get better. So I love that. I love what you're doing in that aspect. And Dr. Brandon Brown is the same way. I love that positive energy that goes into what you're doing.
It's one of the reasons why me and him are such good friends.
Yeah, that's good. Birds of a feather flock together, right? So are you still playing music?
Oh yeah, I play every single day. I've got a number of guitars at my house. I'm still writing. I'm still like, even some of the TikToks that I post are me playing just with words scrolling through the front about how I can help people with migraines and how I can help them get better in their own life. So
That's
I
fun.
take that talent and I just try to spread it wherever I can.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to ask you a few fun questions here. We'll switch gears just a little bit. I always love to do this. This is my fun. So, are you a morning or a night person?
I'm a morning person. It's so crazy because right now, again, I love doing this because it's like I'm very much like in the now, right? So it's for me, it's all about what have I been lately. In the past, I was a night person growing up, right? A lot of us are. You go to
Yeah.
college, you turn 21, you're into the nightlife, you're into mingling and meeting people. And coming from me, I was an introvert more so, but I was still a night person. I did enjoy going out with my circle of friends and all that. It wasn't until in the last probably few years or so that I've started really, really appreciating those morning hours. I'm not going to say it's not because I have two kids that like to get up, and if I'm up before them, it allows me to have some time to myself. But yeah, at the end of the day, I have become a much more of a morning person for sure.
How old are your kiddos, by the way?
Oh, I've got actually a 6-year-old who's right outside my office knocking on the door right now, and and I have an 11-year-old boy. My 6-year-old is Evelyn. It's my
Okay.
daughter. She is my little demon, my little hellion, my spirited little Viking princess that we have. Super talented and amazing. She's taken after me. She goes out every day with me, and we hop on the skateboard. She wants to learn how to do that after watching me. She plays volleyball with her mom, and then I've got my 11-year-old son Parker, who is, he's in the gifted and talented program at school. He's in the chess club. He loves, me and him built a computer earlier this year for him, so he's a gamer through and through, electronics whiz, and one of the smartest kids I've ever met.
That's so awesome. That's awesome. My kids are all big, so when you were talking about knocking on the door, I've been there. I have
Yeah.
had many moments. In fact, you're going to laugh. My youngest is now 16. So I have two adult children. One's in college, one's living on her own. And it's so crazy because even now, like if I go to do a call and I got to get on Zoom, I have to do Sean, I need you to watch the dog and she can't bark and I need y'all to be quiet so I can get through the appointment. So I'm going to tell you, it's like that just kind of keeps going on for a while in different ways. You know what I mean? So, but it's all good. I think the beauty of that is that you can do that, like you can do what you need to do and bring
Yeah.
your family into it and it's all good. So I love that.
Right,
So
it does. Just like real quick. It's interesting to me because it provides us opportunity. It's an opportunity to step back and be patient. Because whenever I have a little girl knocking on the glass office door
right.
coming in, I can either A, wait till I get off and go get mad at her, or I can B, realize it's a 6-year-old kid and I can just go with the flow and remain with a
Yep.
smile on my face and just redirect her attention somewhere else.
That's right. Because one day you might miss that, right? That's what I say.
Exactly.
It's all those little things. I talk about this all the time. But, we'll be like reminiscing. I'm like, do you remember when so and so did this? And you're kind of like, yeah, I kind of miss that now because now they're doing other things. Now they're driving and doing all these other scary things. So, all right. So let's see, cat or dog person.
Personally, I'm a dog person. My wife's a cat person, and we have two of each at our
I was
house.
gonna say, do you have both? You sound like my
We
house.
do.
Like it's like a
We
menagerie or
do.
something. So I love
Yeah,
it.
but I'm a dog person. We just spent a year. I adopted a dog last year. We already had one, but I adopted another one. I post her up all the time on my social media. But yeah, we adopted her. I started and hosted an event with the Humane Society out here, and they came out, and my daughter persuaded me to adopt a dog, and she's been part of the family ever since. And it's been a magnificent addition to our
That's
family.
awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. All right. And what would you say is your favorite food?
My favorite food is going to be lasagna. That
Lasagna.
is, yes.
I like
That was me
lasagna.
growing up. That's one that from the time I was a kid until now, if I have somebody saying, "Hey, let's do that," because I eat pretty dang healthy.
Yeah.
So if somebody does offer it up and I'm in the mood for it, then I'm just going to devour an entire plate of it,
Yeah.
an entire
Lasagna.
tin of it if I can.
Lasagna is good. I'll agree with you. I'm not a big pasta eater, but I do love lasagna. I am a lasagna eater. So
Ah.
very cool. All right. And if you could be any superhero or character for a day, What would you pick?
For a day, Iron Man.
Iron Man?
Iron Man, Tony Stark, like hands down, that guy. I get it. You're, an insanely rich person with a suit, but his mind is insane, and so
That was
the
good.
ability to have something like that, like, come on, I would be Iron Man for sure.
You picked it fast too. You didn't even have to think about that. Like you get that one, just boom, come out. I love it.
I'm a geek. I'm a big geek. I play Dungeons and Dragons, and I play video games, and I watch. I'm all into comic books and all sorts of stuff. So that's my like closeted side that I don't bring out so much, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. Very cool. All right. So before we wrap up here, maybe any last minute nuggets of wisdom or anything you want to share with our listeners before we figure out where we need to find you at?
Right, man. There's always so much that can be said to a group of people listening, and you put yourself on a stage like this and you understand that there is influence involved. Hopefully I built some trust and credibility with your listeners today, but there's always some influence involved. And if I can offer any one piece of advice to anybody listening in terms of health and wellness, it's that the number one most important thing that you can do in your life beyond or before going out and searching for anything external is first work on the internal. Self-care is the absolute, by far, most important thing that you can do for yourself. And that comes in many forms, including things like meditation, including things like yoga, exercise, nutrition, chiropractic care at the specific chiropractic centers being one of them. But self-care, beyond all doubt, is the single most important thing that you can do for yourself, because you cannot begin to heal things on the outside in terms of relationships without first taking a look on the inside.
Spot on. I agree 100%. They talk about those 4 quadrants that you have to work on to be like complete. And it's like you have time and money, freedom, vocation, relationships, and health and well-being. And I tell everybody the number one thing you need to work on is your health and well-being. When you master that, you master the rest. So
Agreed.
Spot on, 100%. Thank you for sharing that. It's like, that is my thing all the time. It's like people come to me and they're like, can you help me run a marathon, or can you help me with the diet plan? I'm like, I can teach you that all day long. It's not going to stick until we work on the inside. Until you learn to get through and master the headspace, we aren't getting that down. Like, I'm going to have to be calling you every day to keep you moving, So 100%. I love it. All right. So if our listeners wanted to learn a little bit more about the specific chiropractic care, what you've got going on, where do we send them?
Oh man, so many places. And this is one of the great things about the internet nowadays, is that we can just be everywhere. The best way that you can find me in terms of learning more about the specific and learning more about our company is go to thespecific.com. Not only are you going to find links to all of our websites, for all of our offices, including my own, but you're going to learn more about our doctors. You're going to learn more about our care, what we stand for, and all that. That's a good way to learn more about the company and a little bit about the service that we provide. To learn more about me personally, there's a couple ways. We can go to fortworth.thespecific.com. That's my personal one. You can find me on Facebook. Just search out the Specific Chiropractic Centers of Fort Worth. You're going to find me there. Instagram, Dr. Casey Sanders. You can find me on TikTok as the Chronic Doc. I'm always trying to post some cool little video or something. I'm no Dr. Brandon Brown over here with his content, but I'm making my way there and swiping and deploying some ideas. And then if you want to email me, you're always welcome to. I am here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to field questions. I'm here to give advice. You can find me there, Dr. Sanders at thespecific.com. That's Dr. Sanders at thespecific.com. Those are probably going to be the most primary ways that you can reach me.
Okay, perfect. We will make sure, we're scrolling some on the screen, but we'll also make sure when we put this out, we'll have all the contact information. Yeah, Chris is awesome. He's good at keeping up with everything for us. So Casey, this has been fun. Thank you for jumping on here, sharing with us. Like I said, I love what you're doing. I love your energy. I can tell you're passionate about it, and I think that is so important.
Appreciate that.
People are drawn to passion, so that's an awesome thing. So thank you for sharing with us today. And I do want to say to our listeners, if you enjoy our podcast, please give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook, because we can't do this without you. And then also hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. And with that, I'm going to wrap things up. I want to leave you guys with a final thought before. Life is like photography. You need the negatives to develop. All right, you guys take care. Be safe. Be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.